With the winter season of anime nearly over, I wanted to put together a top 5 list of my favorite anime so far. Side note, I won't be counting ReZero since it wasn't really new, but with that being said, let's begin. At number 5, I have Infinite Dendrogram. Infinite Dendrogram gives a different perspective on the classic MMORPG anime genre. Where most MMORPG anime are focused around leveling up and the different skills and equipment the character acquires, Infinite Dendrogram provides the character with a game that allows the player to basically do anything. If they want to be a merchant or a politician or even a journalist in the game, they can. This concept is much different than the typical anime in this genre because the different paths each character takes genuinely feel important. Infinite Dendrogram does an excellent job of making even menial job paths feel important to the plot. This creates a world where people joining can live out their fantasies and do anything they want, which is the ultimate escapism. The world Infinite Dendrogram creates is very fascinating to me. It makes me want to join in. I would love to be part of a world where I could choose to do whatever I want and it has significance. That aside, my biggest complaint with the show is that while they try to make the significance of NPC characters dying one of the main reasons for conflict in the show, it wasn't really enough of a hook to make this one of my favorites. Not that the premise isn't interesting, but I prefer player die scenarios where the weight of each in-game decision really matters, and I just never felt that way with watching Infinite Dendrogram. At number 4, I have the other MMORPG anime, Bofuri. I don't want to get hurt, so I'll max out my defense. Bofuri gives an interesting perspective on this genre, just like Infinite Dendrogram, and that perspective is watching how precious Maple is and protecting her at all costs. I know I just criticized Infinite Dendrogram for not really having a strong hook with the plot, but watching Maple clumsily turn herself into one of the most OP characters in the game really resonated with me. It reminded me when I first played Pokemon Blue version and I ran through the game with a level 100 Blastoise and a Rhydon that only used Horn Drill and Earthquake. But in all seriousness, Maple and her interactions with the characters and environment around her is enjoyable to watch. The transition from new gamer who just picked up their first game to full-blown addict who wants to play anytime she gets the chance is something I can relate to a little too much. While this show doesn't have too much of a plot outside the imminent takeover of Maple, the combination of Moe and MMORPG is strangely enticing. Plus, Maple has a giant flying turtle named Syrup! Like, come on! Who wouldn't want to watch a cute anime girl destroy the hopes of veteran players while riding a turtle? At number 3, Toilet Bound Hanako-kun makes an appearance. Hanako-kun has an art style that I absolutely love, similar to that of Demon Slayer and Wind Waker. The show is a good blend of slice-of-life comedy and eerie supernatural incidents. The story follows Nene Yashiro as she summons a ghost from the girl's bathroom stall to grant her wish of love. From that point, her and Hanako-kun team up to keep the balance between apparitions and humans at their school. What I enjoy most about this show is the eerie atmosphere it always gives off. The contrast between the comedic scenes and the gloomy background and soundtrack works really well. The watercolor style animation is usually dark and gloomy, which gives off a mysterious and eerie vibe that keeps me interested no matter what's happening. In addition to the darker animation and soundtrack, the actual story yo-yos between lighthearted comedy and romance to spooky horror with some thriller elements. The anime moves between these two extremes really well, and even when it's a lighthearted scene, the overall gloomy atmosphere keeps me in anticipation for what's going to happen next. Coming in at number 2 is Darwin's Game. If you like player die type anime like SAO or Future Diary, then you'll enjoy the show as well. Darwin's Game follows the same storyline of getting caught up in a deadly game with no prior knowledge of it, and then meeting a crazy yandere who immediately falls in love with the main character. Wait. Wrong show. I'm a sucker for player dies, and so naturally, that was one of my favorite shows for this season. Also, the OP is a banger. Taking elements from both SAO and Future Diary, the plot of the show keeps things interesting as we get to watch people get mercilessly killed through the use of superpowers labeled as sigils. Watching each episode has me holding my breath at times, trying to figure out how Kaname will find his way out of each situation, while also imagining if I'd be able to survive them if I was the one playing. Which, to be honest, definitely not. I would have died in the first episode. I probably would have tripped when the panda was chasing me or something. My only complaint with Darwin's game is how soft Kaname can be. Don't get me wrong, I can understand from a normal person's perspective how the idea of killing someone can be extremely difficult to go through with. But in situations where it's either killed or be killed, I'm not a fan of watching the main character letting people off so easy or continuing to resolve things peacefully. I think the character development is better when they sink to the levels of others and doing what has to be done to survive. But that's just me. Before I get to number 1, I want to throw in a dishonorable mention. I had really high hopes for Plunderer before the season began because the concept of the numbers and the world they lived in was so interesting. But the show has turned out to be a total disaster. The main character follows the I'm a pervert, but at the same time a really good guy trope so hard it's not even funny. I mean, he basically just sexually assaults every girl in sight for no reason. Really? Like, it has no bearing on the plot at all. Then there is the main heroine who is about as annoying as they come.
Hey pal, you just blowing from Stupid Town?
The animation and fights are almost unwatchable at times, and the world building was terrible. In the first episode, Hina asks what the numbers on everyone means, and then proceeds to explain that she knows what her number meant all along.
What do you mean it's controlled by them?
Do you really not know what that is?
Mine is... it's the distance I've walked.
If you knew, then why ask? What really gets me upset though is the fact that they almost completely abandoned the number concept entirely. It was used in the first couple of episodes and was then brushed aside and no longer mentioned. I'm more disappointed with the show than anything because I feel like it was a waste of potential and I can't recommend watching this one. At number 1, the concept of the show had me hesitant at first, but after watching a few episodes, I realized the masterpiece it truly was. I give it a 9. The story was extremely enticing, with plenty of plot to go around. So much plot, in fact, that it was often difficult to keep up with the plot. I give that an 8. The characters were truly ones with clear motives. They were easy to understand, yet deep, all at the same time. I give them a 9. If you don't understand this reference and have no idea what I'm talking about, then you get a 0. Just kidding, not really. Interspecies Reviewers is not my number 1, wink wink. The show is pretty controversial within the community right now, but after watching it, it was surprisingly not bad. You know, after you get over the fact that it's a hentai and all. Consider this as an honorable mention. My other honorable mention is Science Fell in Love, so I tried to prove it. I typically like romance anime like this, but I felt like they were trying too hard to make it like Kaguya-sama Love is War, but with science. It was enjoyable, but not really something I felt like raving about. My real number 1 for the winter 2020 season is ID Invaded. This is an anime I feel is vastly underrated this season. It was one I didn't even pick up until it was almost halfway through. Watching the brilliant detective Sakaido go through all the different Idwells was almost like watching a fever dream in each episode. With so many shades of psychopaths, ID Invaded explores the motives for serial killers through their subconscious in order to find clues to their whereabouts and previous victims. This story is dark and it has a lot of graphic scenes that you just can't look away from. Watching Akihito Narisako get darker and darker as the series progresses is sad for the viewer because he was a good guy who had a normal life until he lost his family to the serial killer, the Challenger. As he goes further into despair, he turns into a different kind of serial killer himself, but instead of targeting random citizens, he sets his sights on other serial killers. While he doesn't directly kill them, He uses psychological manipulation to make them kill themselves, usually after a conversation with them through a jail cell. The characters are interesting, there's a unique animation style to the show, and a lot of the scenes have a strong impact. Seeing mangled victims killed through many different methods, then seeing that same person alive and well in the Idwell provides a stark contrast between dreams and reality. Seeing the victims in the well provides a connection for the viewer, showing that the character is a person who could be like you or me, and then finding that person in real life already dead provides a dimension of despair that's hard to avoid. If you have not watched this anime yet, I highly recommend checking it out. The story continues to heat up and I'm really excited to see how it ends. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, like and subscribe so you're notified of my newly uploaded videos. Also be sure to comment below. I want to know what you guys think. If you agree with me or not, your thoughts and perspectives. I want to see what your take on this winter anime season was. I hope you'll stay with me. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!